Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Look, man, boxing referees have a tough job. And when you're sitting back watching the fight and you're seeing certain decisions happen, like what this guy Tony Weeks has done, and a couple fights, it makes you wonder. If we know there's corruption in boxing. I joke about the secret society, but at the same time, I'm serious as a heart attack about fighters being paid off to take dives, referees being paid off to make sure the right fighter wins, judges, the commission. There's a lot of different things that happen in boxing, man, to influence the outcome of a fight. But my thing is, when it comes to the sport of boxing, people keep saying boxing's dying, boxing's dead. It's because of stuff like this. I don't know if boxing's dead. I don't know if it'll ever die off. But what I will say is there seems to be a culture of, I'm not even going to say what rules are being broken by the referees, but it seems to be a culture of questionable decisions in must-win fights for certain opponents or certain fighters. Now, I do think corruption is abounded, man, when it comes to boxing. I do. So what's the fix? When you look at the current leadership, they got to, unless they're being influenced too by the corruption, I can't see that the current leadership would be okay with Tony Weeks' stoppage last night. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that Virgil Ortiz was letting his hands go. His opponent, typical Ghanaian-style fighter, super high guard, elbows tucked in, chin tucked. Most of those shots Ortiz was hitting him with was hitting his arms. He did seem to land a little bit of a body shot that got his attention. Most fighters, when they stop throwing shots, is because they probably got buzzed a little bit. But from what I saw, it did not look like the Ghanaian fighter, Lawson, didn't look hurt to me. And what we do know with a lot of fighters, man, if they do get just touched a little bit, they will go into a little bit of a retreat mode. And then once the storm calms, then they get back to business. But in last night, I understand it's subjective and it's tough for these referees to make the right call. But I truly believe with Tony Weeks last night, they need to really look at him. And they need to have a conversation. And I also want to point out, when you look at what happened there with Alexander Usyk, and I get it, I understand the rules. A low blow is a low blow. When you look at the rules of a low blow, that shot Dubois hit Usyk with, it was a low blow. Okay? I make jokes and say, Alexander Usyk has irritable bowel syndrome. He had his testicles up on his chest. And I point at it because I understand you want the intestines to be protected. You want the kidneys to be protected, as well as, the private parts of a male or female. I understand that. But at the same time, there has to be a judgment call. It's just like last night when you're looking at Tony Weeks stopping that fight. I understand what the rules say. After a certain amount of, if there's unanswered punches, then it puts the referee in a position to protect the fighter. I understand that, but it's a bit of a gray area there when you, at least for me, if you're sitting there watching this, and it obviously seems like the person is just there, defending himself. But then again, I'm not in the ring. But what I will say is the concerns that are starting to surface, I just think it's kind of unjustifiable decisions being made when it comes to these referees. And I think the referees need all the support in the world so they can do their job with confidence. But behind the scenes, I don't know what happens, but I would think there'd have to be some kind of warning, some kind of discussion, some kind of counseling session between the guys who are in those leadership positions and these referees. I would also think there'd be some kind of conversations when it comes to, when it comes to the commission, with everybody who plays a role in making a fight happen. So what can change in the sport? I'm not really sure, but I think what you're seeing is some kind of ingrained learned behaviors in that boxing referee culture, and you've seen it, years ago. When you talk about Richard Steele and that fight between Chavez and was it Meldrick Taylor? It was 10 seconds or something left in that fight, like maybe single digits or something left in that damn fight. Where Taylor was winning, hands down. And it's almost like Richard Steele had an opportunity finally to stop that fight. He made sure that fight didn't finish. I haven't heard one person come out and defend that decision with Tony Weeks, seeing that the fight was basically over. Shit, Meldrick Taylor could have gone down on a knee again, but again, you can sit there and argue it's the referee's job to protect the fighter. But when you look at those things, you can't help but say, damn, what the hell made the referee get in there and stop that fight? Especially when you know the type of corruption that takes place in the sport of boxing. You look at Floyd Mayweather and how he had Kenny Bayless for most of his fights. And after he retired, he had Kenny Bayless traveling around with him for his exhibitions. Anybody ever stop and ask why Floyd makes sure to take care of Bayless, although he's retired now? So you can't help but try to peel the layers back to make sense of what you're seeing. And that's what happens when you don't understand things. It's just like me watching the fight last night. Some people feel that it was a fair stoppage. I personally think it was a little premature. So that's why I'm sitting here doing videos and asking questions, because it makes me wonder about the ethics and integrity in boxing and whether it's really being respected by certain referees. And it goes back to what I said, it's just about the culture of the sport and the history of corruption, and referees have a lot of influence over a boxing match. But it is what it is. There was a time, man, where there were, in the amateur, matter of fact, I think it still happens, in the amateurs and the pro ranks, where you've had, different, what they were considered high-risk officials, high-risk referees, get removed as a part of a selection of just trying to vet judges and the referees, man, to make sure that fights that are being staged are as fair as possible. And when, especially, you look at what's going on in the amateur ranks, man, you got where some people on the commission are throwing signals to the judges and signals to the referee to make sure the right person wins the fight. It's absolutely crazy. So when you look at that, it makes you wonder, if they can find some kind of proof that there's some foul play going forward, what should be the disciplinary action? What, stricter monitoring? I don't know. But when you look at a guy who travels over, who's from Ghana, or any fighter, doesn't matter where they're from, they have an opportunity to get in there and put on the best effort possible to set themselves up for another fight to make more money and to feed their families. And when you have that taken from them, I think it's foul. Fortunately for Barroso, where he did get hurt by Rolly, but, Tony Weeks jumped in and saved him. Nobody was saying that fight, I didn't see many people saying that fight between Barroso and Rolly Romero, I didn't see or hear many people say that they thought that stoppage was fair. A lot of people felt like, the house fighter wasn't looking that great, and he finally had an opportunity, and he buzzed Barroso just enough to make Tony Weeks jump in and stop the fight. And a lot of people were frustrated with that. That's why right now people are saying Rolly Romero doesn't deserve any respect as a boxer unless he gives old man Barroso a rematch. And what I think is this. I think it's when you have fights that end like that or questionable decisions, I think the fighter should want to go and prove that, hey, that wasn't no fluke. Just like Devin Haney and Lomachenko. I think Devin won that fight. But the preponderance of boxing fans feel Devin Haney lost. But I think he won that fight. But at the end of the day, go and rematch him and clean that up. But I don't know, man. At this point, I don't know, man. I think sometimes, man, people can become complicit and just compliant. Referees, judges, commissions, can be fueled by one wanting to have reform and do the right thing, or they can be fueled by the monetary benefits of corruption. And the problem is, I don't have a peek behind the tit flaps to know what the hell is really going on. All I can do is, like you all, is sit there and watch, and then just have an opinion on it. It's so subjective. But I tell you, there's one guy. What's that guy's name, man? Who, whenever he referees the fights, he making all the funny faces and everything. Man, I forgot his name. He was doing stand-up comedy too, man. He's the I can't remember. Damn, what's his name? Y'all know who I'm talking about. He's the one who makes all the funny faces. It's like he seems to be everyone's favorite referee. Makes you wonder why he's not doing a whole lot of fights and any more high-profile fights. I thought he was a pretty good referee. He seemed to be fair. But when you see guys like that who aren't getting the opportunities, to me, it makes me wonder that maybe he didn't play along. Okay? But at the end of the day, for the sport to retain its place, I think as one of the top sports when compared to basketball, football, combat sports, anything, I think they need to really take a look at what's going on with these referees, man. And I think when they have a lot of these conferences, these sanctioning bodies have their conferences, I just think it's a little conflict of interest when you have members from the sanctioning body there, you have promoters there, you have managers there, you have people from the commission there, you have judges there, you have the effing referees there, and you have some fighters there. That is a recipe for corruption to take place. That's where a lot of the corruption happens. I'm not making this up. You go out there and watch Teddy Atlas talk about there are other videos out there. Go read the articles on it. Guys would be at those conferences, having the conversations, go to the restroom, and sit there and slide a little envelope to somebody, man, while they both two urinals and talking, nobody in there, slide the money to him, puts it in his breast pocket, and they go on out of there, deal done. I'm not making that up. I don't know, man. But, I think in some instances, there's got to be a way to rebrand boxing to help get beyond the past and previous perceptions of corruption, to help drive change and to get fans, diehard and casual fans, to see boxing in a more positive light. But I'll tell you what, I don't see it as a crisis. It's not going to be, they're not doing enough to make me stop watching the damn sport. So it cracks me up when people are here talking about they're no longer going to watch boxing. Boxing's on the decline. Corruption's abounded. Oh, this is a trickle-down effect from the secret society, and we're seeing it happen at all levels of the sport. They're bending these rules with impunity. Now, all I'll tell you is this. If anyone has ties to the secret society, to these different corruptors, and they're able to identify them, I think they should definitely, man, be permanently banned from boxing and jailed. Boxing is big business, man, and it's going to continue to be, and it's going to continue to be corruption. But I tell you what, man, when it comes to the boxing's leadership or boxing's governance, I think that whole issue about integrity, that's going to continue to affect the present. It affected the past. I think it's going to affect the future of boxing bouts. And I don't really know what the answer is. More training for the judges? I mean, for the referees? I don't know. But there should be some kind of stricter control around around the referees, and they have so much leeway, which they should have. But goddamn, you got one referee who does it one way and sees things one way, another one who does it this way. Matter of fact, for those of you who are defending what happened last night with Tony Weeks, right? You're defending him stopping that fight, okay? Are you defending Jack Reese when Tyson Fury went down and was out cold, laying on his back, motionless? And Jack Reese said, you know what? He dropped on his knees. He got right in Tyson Fury's face and started screaming at him. Now, I think Jack Reese and that shit was all secret society for real. I think that was corruption at its finest. You see a man go down like that, you stop the fight. And then they come out there and Jack Reese said, I think that was some of my finest work, my finest referee work. But we're all going to have differing opinions, okay? But one thing I will say is no matter what goes on in boxing, us having conversations and talking about corruption and not agreeing with decisions and whatever our frustrations are that we choose to vent when we get on social media. And I'm pretty confident that boxing's not down for the 10 count. Maybe a standing 8 that boxing takes at times, but not down for the 10 count. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. Boxing referees have a tough job, but I don't give a damn, man. Some of that stuff that these guys are doing, I mean, I gotta throw the BS flag, and I'm just being real. Y'all keep cool. Have a good weekend in the breeze.